Hey folks, I got a request to talk about paper computer games, but without the paper. Is that a thing? Have I experienced it? Yes, I have, so I think it's time for us to talk about it. So the basic concept is just like a paper computer game. One person says what they're going to try to do, the other person tells them whether it works or not. That's how these games work. The only difference is this time there's no piece of paper. There's no screen for your character to be on. There's nothing telling you what's going on the screen. It's all just you and the other person talking to each other, just saying, hey, you find yourself stuck in a cave. What do you do?
Well, I'll look for an exit.
There's no exits. There's only passages going off in two different directions. Which way do you go? Left or right? Now, my friends and I have played a few games like this. They're usually off the cuff. They just kind of happen in the moment, and it's fun. But should we actually do more games like that? I mean, if they're so good, why have the paper? Is the paper necessary at all? Maybe we should just have all our games be like that. On the other hand, if PCGs are important, if the paper is important, then, why not make all our games PCGs? To answer these questions, I think we should get into some of the advantages and disadvantages of the medium. So let's start with the advantages of a paperless computer game. For one thing, they take a lot less effort to make, so making them is super. In fact, it's ultimately easy. You don't have to spend any time developing them. You pretty much just, on the spot, just say to your friend, hey, you're on top of a roof. What do you do? Oh, hey, you're stuck in a cave. Oh, hey, you're being swept down a river. What do you do? And your imagination just kind of builds on it from there. Years ago, when we were considering actually trying to find a way to sell paper computer games or make them public before we even conceived of this YouTube channel, Chris was very worried about the artwork. He thought maybe we, since we're never gonna be able to get any audience or attract anyone with our art, since our art sucks, maybe, or at least it's not professional, maybe we should just ditch the art and just have games with no screens. And it's win-win because you don't have to do any work. Another advantage is it can kind of just come out of the conversation that you're having, which is fun. I mean, you're talking about, Zelda, and you're like, okay, you're Link, you're in the Great Deku Tree, what do? You could just make anything up. And because of that, there's a lot of freedom to go in just any direction you want. Because there's no exact picture that you're stuck to, there's no limits. You can just have your imagination let you take the game anywhere in space and time, and you don't have to put in any effort to make a new screen if the player wants to go someplace you didn't plan for. So that's all sounding pretty good, but there's some pretty serious disadvantages I think we need to consider for this as well. For one thing, it's harder to make a complex puzzle without a screen. I mean, if you've got a drawn screen there, then you can lay out, okay, here's a series of levers, they're in this particular arrangement, or you can create something that look like objects that are in particular places and have to be rearranged, or things like that. You can create some really intricate, interesting puzzles in a paper computer game. But in a paperless computer game, I mean, it's all your voice, it's all your imagination. So yes, you can technically create anything. However, it's harder for the player to keep track of a lot of little objects and where they are and how they're arranged if they're only using their imagination, if they can't see it. Like if you're going, okay, there's a little lever to the left of that one, and then to the left of that, there's a shorter lever, and then to the left of that one, there's yet another lever. It's kind of hard to keep all that stuff straight. You have to keep asking again and again where the same thing is a bunch of times. Another disadvantage is that it's just hard to keep the game together. It kind of loses cohesion kind of quickly. Just because it was created, off the cuff, it came out of a conversation, it feels like a conversation. It doesn't feel as real, it doesn't feel like, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to this. And, the creator can kind of get distracted. They can, I don't know where I'm going with this, That's happened to me a bunch of times. And also, the double-edged sword side of you being able to create whatever you want immediately with no effort put in, the other side of that is, well, because you didn't put any planning into it, that probably means it's kind of incoherent. It's just random. It's just all over the place, you know? Stuff just happens just because it's what you happen to think of in the moment. Of course, that doesn't have to be the case. You can meticulously plan a paperless computer game. We've just never done it. So there's a few examples of times we've done this. These are mostly recorded on the PCG Wiki. Let's take a look at a few of these games and see how they stack up. So first of all, we've got a Star Trek game by my friend Ari. Now, so the game started with some pretty big concepts. It's where Zach from the PCG universe gets sucked into the Star Trek universe where he meets the Borg. For those who don't know, the Borg are a race of cybernetic aliens who assimilate you by turning you into a cyborg, and then you become part of their hive mind. They're expanding through space, assimilating planets, and taking their people and their technology as they go. Now, in this game, we find out that the Borg have joined the company from the PCG universe, and it's like, what? Oh no. So, like, yeah, that's basically what I remember from this game, is just, you know, getting abducted by a Borg ship, and then you're talking to the Borg queen, and she's like, that's right, I've joined the company. And I'm like, what? Oh no, why? And then, you know, kind of after that conversation, the game just kind of went off the rails, and I was just like, you know what, forget this. I'm like, okay. Well, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It can easily go off the rails, and, you know, like, you get to a point and you're like, where do I go from here? I don't know, this is kind of random. What am I doing, you know? Then we've got Moot, the game by Miles. Moot, the game is about you just arguing against a moot point. That's the villain, and whatever you say, it doesn't matter. Your arguments are moot. And basically the game is just an unwinnable trap. You're stuck in this cave with this moot. All your points are moot, and even if you try to fight him, that's moot too. I actually did succeed in defeating Moot, but then it turns out you're stuck in this cave like a mile up, sticking out of a mountain. There's no way to safely climb down. There's no way out, and basically you're just doomed to die. So it's just sort of an unwinnable challenge. And also, the ghost of Steve Jobs seems to appear just to laugh at you. In case anyone's interested, the full transcript of this game is available on the PCG Wiki. That's just because we played it like in a chat on AOL back in the days, America Online, you know, back in the day. So the full transcript of that is on the PCG Wiki. It's linked in the description below. It has my old screen name from AOL on it. So that's gonna be a weird throwback read if anyone's interested. But then there's a game called Canonization, which was made by Chris, once again on the fly, because we were talking about paper computer games and which ones are canon, you know, what counts as canon to the PCG universe. And then, so he made this game off the fly. They're like, somehow every PCG in the entire PCG universe has been made uncanon, and the only way to make them canon again is to get to this canon and shoot them out of the cannon so that they'll be... I don't know. Chris was just trying to troll me. Like, he starts with, like, nothing is canon, nothing counts anymore, and I'm like, you know. But like, you can win back the canonicity of the rest of the PCG universe. So I guess it's good that I beat that game, because otherwise, that'd be it. No more PCG universe today. But yeah, that just kind of highlights how, like, just how random it is, you know, like, you're not trying to tell, like, a serious full game with lore. It's just sort of like, it's a joke, you know, it's just sort of like playing around, and it kind of naturally came out of the conversation that we were having. So which do I think are better, PCGs or paperless computer games? Well, here's the interesting thing. There's actually less separation between them than you think. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like, there's large portions of any paper computer game where the screen just sort of doesn't matter. Chris's paper computer game Ghosts is the perfect example of this. Yeah, in the beginning of the game, you are exploring the screens, like, okay, what's this? What's under that thing, you know? But then later in the game, once you sort of know what you're doing, I mean, in that game, you play as a ghost. So you can fly through walls and doors. Nothing like that matters. And so for a lot of the game, you're just basically going from one place to another, talking to a character. And it just amounts to, okay, I'll go talk to Aunt Mildred. I'll say, hey, Mildred, what are you doing? And then, like, once that conversation's over, okay, I'll go talk to Uncle Eddie. Seeing the screen, like, just doesn't matter for that. You know, you can just, like, a lot of the time, you know, I'm not even looking at it. You know, it's just my imagination. And, you know, and there's even parts of that game where like, there just isn't a screen of it drawn. Like, okay, yeah, there's a screen, but, like, I'll be like, okay, I'll go under the floorboards and I'll like wind my way around the beams and chase the mouse that's under there. And Chris didn't draw a screen for that, but, you know, for that section, I guess that technically is kind of like a paperless computer game, even though overall the game is a PCG, a paper computer game. But for that little section, there's no screen, and I'm interacting with things that aren't on the screen. So, right? Still, though, that game gave me the perfect example because I'm glad the screens were there. Like, they gave me something to explore, at least in the beginning. The fact that they're not relevant for every section of the game doesn't mean that they don't have value, that they don't enrich the experience. They gave me something to be curious about. You know, like, without Chris saying anything, I could explore something normal and it would become weird. Like, I would be like, hey, that carpet has an interesting pattern. What's that? If Chris had just told me that there was a carpet there, he would already be giving away that it's weird, you know, like, there's, like, hey, there's a weird carpet on the floor. It's like, oh, all right, well, okay, sure, I'll, like, then it would be more like him just telling me what to check out. Whereas, because it's drawn on the screen and it looks kind of normal, and I just got curious about it, like, hey, that's interesting, let me check under the carpet and see if there's anything there. It's because of that, you know, like, I get to all this good exploration, that I make all these cool discoveries. It's because there's a visual environment to see things to be curious about. That builds up your imagination around the whole thing. And yeah, once you've gotten familiar with this whole area, yeah, you don't need the screen anymore. It's all there in your imagination now. And you can kind of just work off that. But the screen is important to help you build up your imagination in the right way, to sort of give you guide rails and like give you a place to explore. It helps ground the game in a way. So yeah, I do think paperless games are fun, and they're good for, you know, off the cuff gameplay. They're fun. But I still on the whole, I still do prefer traditional paper computer games. I think the screens overall make for a richer experience, but having some parts of your paper computer game be paperless can be a good thing. So what do you guys think? Do you like one over the other? Do you think paperless computer games are a waste of time? Do you think they should replace paper computer games? Either way, let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, folks. That's all I have to say on this subject, but yeah, PCG you later.